They're schemers. Schemers trying to control their little worlds. I'm not a schemer. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. And here we go.
Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're well. You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. This is video 3 of 3. That's it, baby. 3 of 3. Did you check out the other two? Have you seen them both? Did you see the one about the young British girl punished for wearing a dress? A Union Jack dress in the UK. Who'd have thought it? On a diversity day of all things at school. If you don't see me again, it's because I've been locked up for talking about it, okay? And that is a real thing here. But in this video, I'm going over a document, an article that I've had to pay for, so you don't have to, because I've took one for the team again. If that ain't worth a like and subscribe, I don't know what is. Come on, multiple videos a day, paying for stuff so you don't have to. Not all heroes wear capes, baby. But anyway, let's talk. Did you know Bryan Kohberger had a nickname? He did, you know. Going to learn what that is as well in a minute. Let's crack on. Strap yourselves in. This is a rough one. I'm telling you. Childhood secrets that made Bryan Kohberger slaughter strangers. Because already got me gripped. And don't worry, I know it's a Daily Fail article, but it's got me gripped. The night sky over Idaho is famous for being about the darkest in the US, and Bryan Kohberger would tell police that he was out driving around in his car late night 3 years ago because he was watching the moon and the stars. Lost credibility immediately. At no point did he say on that night that he was watching the fucking moon and stars on that night, did he? He was out driving. Yes, tick, you got a point for that. But the watching moon and stars was when Ann Taylor had to add some clarity to that information to say that Bryan Kohberger was a bit of a night owl. It wasn't unusual for him to be out at night because he had hobbies that included hiking, running, and stargazing. Do you know what I mean? But there was no mention that that's actually what he was doing on this night. It was just backing up the fact that Bryan Kohberger was a fucking night owl. So straight away, first paragraph, you're an idiot. So, in fact, his attention was focused on a student house in the university town of Moscow, where the night was about to get immeasurably darker. Kohberger slipped in through an unlocked door and slaughtered 4 of the occupants in their beds with a combat knife. 4 friends were aged 20 to 21 and all students at the University of Idaho. As grisly as they seemed motiveless, the killings of the 3 young women and 1 man in the early hours of November 13th, 2022 transfixed America like few crimes in living history. I agree. The countrywide horror wasn't hard to understand. Millions of Americans had children, just like Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogans, Anna Knodel, and Ethan Chapin. Barely out of high school and now living the often hard partying student life away from home. Not apparently, not according to the Amazon Prime documentary. These kids never touched the D-rugs. Like, fuck. Naive idiots. Kohberger, a 30-year-old criminologist with an unnerving personality and a fascination with forensic science and serial killers, has now admitted all 4 murders in a bid to avoid the state's death penalty. Now, I do believe that this statement to be true. I do believe indeed that he has admitted it to avoid the death penalty. I do believe that that is absolutely accurate. Now, if this had said he has now admitted to all 4 murders because he 100% did it beyond a reasonable doubt, I'd say that statement's false. He is expected to be sentenced later this month, but faces 4 consecutive life sentences. By allowing Kohberger, a socially awkward autistic loner, here we go again with the autism, utilising that to attack, I did say this yesterday, with a history of unsettling behaviour towards young women. So he had a history of unsettling behaviour towards young women. To avoid a trial, prosecutors will never have to explain the abiding mystery of his motive. Why did he target 4 students who, though they lived a 10-minute drive from the Washington State University, where he was studying a PhD in criminal justice, he had apparently never even met? No connection, nothing at all. No link between him and them. Although there are various theories, we may never know for certain. Some believe Kohberger, who fellow students said loved to show off how clever he was, simply wanted to prove he could commit the perfect murder. And how he did so? By buying stuff on Amazon, trying to erase it apparently, or trying to buy a replacement, then taking his phone but turning it off because he couldn't have left it at home, driven his own car around a neighbourhood, getting caught on every single camera he possibly could, nearly losing control and hitting a fucking tree or a person, God knows what, when he was leaving. And and taking selfies and stuff and going back to the scene, which they're going to talk about and I'm going to talk about in a second. Perfect crime. Many experts believe he was a misogynist incel or involuntary celibate who blame women for their sexual failings, who wanted to dominate women and specifically targeted one of his victims, Maddie Mogan, who he'd seen. So earlier, no connection, no link whatsoever. Now, multiple people are reporting they'd seen her at the local vegan restaurant and followed avidly on social media. Well, there's no connection, so this literally now makes absolutely no sense. No fucking sense whatsoever. Pretty and blonde 21-year-old Mogan epitomised the type of women he both coveted and despised, and he become darkly obsessed with her, it's claimed. It's claimed? It's claimed by whom? Well, we know whom, don't we? The likes of Blumberbus and Shatterson. Whether the twisted motive, prosecutors say Kohberger parked his car, a white Hyundai Elantra, at the back of the house at around 4 a.m. It was a Sunday morning and the occupants of the 3-storey off-campus house had gone to bed very late after a busy Saturday night of bars and parties. On the top floor were bedrooms of Mogan and Gonsalves, who kept a dog, while Canodal and housemate Dylan Mortensen had rooms on the floor below. A fifth student, Bethany Funk, occupied the bottom floor. Entering through an unlocked sliding door to the kitchen at the back of the house, their visitor ignored the 2 bedrooms on that middle floor of the house and went straight up a narrow flight of stairs to where Mogan and Gonsalves, bosom buddies since school days, were sleeping together in Mogan's bed. He killed both of them with a K-bar combat knife he'd bought months earlier and, making a rare but fatal error, left its tan leather sheath by Mogan's body. Both victims' blood was later found on the sheath, along with DNA from a third person who turned out to be Kohberger. According to prosecutors, he then went back downstairs and found housemate Xana Canodal, who, according to her phone activity, was still awake. And then in the video earlier on today, we also then hear that there was data missing surrounding phones at the actual property itself. So I wonder if some of this information is inaccurate. He killed her with a 7-inch bladed knife too, and also dispatched Chapin, her boyfriend, who was sleeping in Canodal's bedroom. Prosecutors emphasised that there was no this sort of component. None of that. Even if some insist it was central to the motive, because I can't seem to let go. And that every victim was multiple times. I know we have to be a little bit careful what we say. Kohberger left alive the 2 other women in the house, despite coming face to face with one of them, literally 3 feet away. Dylan Mortensen, who was due to testify at trial that she'd been woken by noises, initially believing Gonsalves was playing with her dog. Then he heard crying coming from Canodal's room, and a male voice she didn't recognise say something like, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." After hearing crying again, she opened her door and saw a figure with bushy eyebrows and wearing black clothing and a ski mask coming towards her. Mortensen froze, and the unknown person walked past her. Locking herself in her room, she began texting her housemates, but only got a response from Funk downstairs. Although the text message revealed their increasing panic, the pair didn't call the police for another 8 hours, an odd and never explained detail that defense lawyers had planned to exploit at trial, and so they fucking well should. Those of you who want to ignore that, you need your heads read. The intruder... Whoa, what happened there? The intruder left by the same sliding door, and roughly 5 minutes later, the Hyundai car was captured on a neighbour's surveillance camera, speeding away so fast it almost lost control on a corner. So did they capture that on camera then? The losing control? I don't know. Said prosecutor Bill Thompson at a hearing a week ago. An emotional Thompson told the court that Kohberger intended to kill when he entered the home that night and may not have planned to kill as many people as he did. We will not represent that he intended to commit all of the murders that he did that night, but we know that is what resulted, he said. What seems undeniable is Kohberger hadn't intended to be caught. Prosecutors point out that Kohberger did pre-doctorate study on crime scene processing, so would have had detailed knowledge of what investigators would be looking for. He switched his mobile phone off for nearly 2 hours so its location wouldn't be recorded. Again, this is speculatory because we don't 100% know that the phone was turned off because we never got a trial and saw evidence to support and back that up and ram that home 100%. And you also have to question, why the fuck did he take his phone in the first place? Why bother? Prosecutors believe he drove along back roads to return to his flat just over the state border in Pullman, Washington, in order to avoid surveillance cameras on the major routes. But again, as stated by Ray, the drive test data, or the additional data that supports and back this up, is missing. There's no data to support this. This is speculation again. Kohberger then returned to the crime scene at 9 a.m., staying for about 10 minutes. But he didn't return to the crime scene, did he? He went to a bank ATM machine. And they know this. The prosecution know this. But yet again, even during the plea deal hearing, they tried to make it look like he returned to the crime scene itself. He was caught on fucking camera at the ATM. Kohberger later changed his car registration from Pennsylvania, where his family lived 2,500 miles away, to Washington State, complicating the efforts of investigators searching surveillance camera footage. Under Pennsylvania law, cars don't have to carry a front license plate, making it harder to identify the vehicle. But, however, it is the law in Washington State to have a front number plate. So did Bryan Kohberger just decide to finally sort his car out from a legal perspective because he knew he was returning to work after the break? In fact, surveillance cameras hadn't captured the Elantra's number plate near the student's house, but the vehicle was spotted by college police in a campus car park at Washington State University and found to be registered to Kohberger. By the time investigators finally linked him and his car with the murders weeks later, he'd been able to scrub his flat and office completely clean. Spartan would be a kind characterization. There was nothing there. Nothing of evidential value was found, said Thompson of Kohberger's University lodgings. His spotless car, meanwhile, had been essentially disassembled inside so that it could be meticulously cleaned. The knife has never been recovered, but judging by Kohberger's phone movements, he may well have thrown it in a local river 30 miles south of Moscow. What he couldn't scrub clean, however, was his mobile phone data, which, when matched to cell tower records, revealed Kohberger had been visiting the area of the student house since early July and all 23 times, and always between the hours of 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. There was no indication he'd had any contacts with his victims over that time. So again, yes, he was going over there approximately once a week, and they knew, and Ann Taylor stated, and maybe that was just theatrics, but she still stated, yes, he went there, but you know where he went when he went there, and you also know where he didn't go. And again, this issue with being connected to a tower that provides service up to an area up to within 100 meters of this property means that he is not connected to a tower that services the fucking property itself. What is people finding so difficult about that? I don't know. And of course, investigators also had that knife sheath and its crucial DNA sample. FBI agents posed as rubbish collectors so they could retrieve bags left outside the Pennsylvania home of his parents. They found a Q-tip cotton wool stick that contained DNA that was identified as belonging to the father of whoever's DNA was found on the knife sheath. Police had the critical piece of evidence, and 5 days after Christmas, a heavily armed SWAT team pounced on the parents' house where Kohberger had gone for the holidays and been spotted wearing surgical gloves whenever he went outside. Kohberger refused to speak at his subsequent court arraignment, at which he pleaded not guilty. His lawyers repeatedly tried to get the death penalty formally struck from the case on the grounds he'd recently been diagnosed with autism. His parents, Michael, a retired maintenance worker, and Mary Ann, who worked with additional support needs children, struggled for years with a son who had lived at home until he moved to Washington State University at 28 to do his PhD. In his teens, Kohberger developed a rare and debilitating neurological condition known as visual snow syndrome, in which those affected see static in their vision. They can also suffer tinnitus, and Kohberger told fellow sufferers in an online forum that he sometimes heard demons in my head mocking me. He claimed online he felt depersonalized and he could do whatever I want with little remorse. I might spiral out of control. At middle school, he was overweight and bullied, especially by the girls. He reportedly developed an intense crush on a pretty blonde girl, a future cheerleader who rebuffed him. He turned to drugs in high school and became a H addict. His father reportedly told Kohberger's friends Kohberger wasn't the same person after the D-rugs in his mid-teens. He would steal from a neighbor to pay for his H, once even burgling her house while she was visiting her son, his friend and a fellow addict in prison. So we're now saying that he was a burglar as well now. He's a burglar, robbed his neighbor. Kohberger went into rehab while still a teenager and appeared to turn himself around, taking up boxing, becoming a fitness fanatic and staunch vegan. However, he remained desperately shy and awkward with girls who often found him overbearing and creepy. At DeSales University in Pennsylvania, where he obtained degrees in psychology and criminal justice, other students called him the Ghost. The Ghost. Because he would slide silently into classes and vanish immediately afterwards. Some of the female students complained to staff Kohberger made them feel uncomfortable. He was clearly very intelligent, but arrogant and abrasive with it. He was banned from a local bar near his parents' home for endlessly harassing female staff and sort of obsessive behavior, which he allegedly did with Maddie Mogan, whose social media photos he always liked. However, even Catherine Ramsland, a forensic psychology professor at DeSales and one of the foremost experts on serial killers, didn't have him down as potential murderer. He was very polite, respectful, seemed genuine, engaged with the material as a potential researcher, teacher, somebody who was interested in a career, she said. Funny that. He seemed to be someone who was interested in a career because he'd done fucking years of studies. He'd literally gone to university and done all this shit. If you wanted to kill people, why the fuck would you even do all that? He could have just gone out and killed people. Just really went the long route about it all, didn't he? I don't know. When she heard he'd been arrested, Dr. Ramsland, the author of books such as The Mind of a Murderer and How to Catch a Killer, she was convinced the police had made a mistake. It's Dr. Ramsland who taught Kohberger about a mass murderer, wealthy British-American Elliot Rodger, who had been cited as a potential direct influence on him. In 2014, when he was 22, Rodger became an incel hero when he murdered 6 people and injured 14 others with knives, pistols, and his car during a killing spree in Isla Vista, California, before killing himself. I'm not even fucking reading any more of that. I'm not reading any more of it. I just don't get it. Not that shit. Let's have a look at this. Look. One of the latter revealed how Kohberger once confided, though he knew he would have any woman he wanted, he believed they belonged in the kitchen and the bedroom. So Bryan Kohberger apparently, he knew he could have any woman he wanted and believed they belonged in the kitchen and the bedroom. He once followed one of the women he taught out to a car while others complained he was grading them worse than the men. By the time he committed the killings, his superiors had reportedly resolved, after repeated warnings, to sack him as a teaching assistant. Without that income, he would have been unlikely to have been able to stay at the university. Incel killer Elliot Rodger, who'd been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, had repeatedly mentioned his particular hatred for pretty blonde girls whose lack of interest in him appeared to infuriate him. What is it? Is it Bundy Rogers? Bundy Rogers? Bundy Rogers? Did Kohberger think the same? Forensic psychologist Dr. Carol Lieberman believes Kohberger studied psychology and criminology because he was trying to learn how to commit the perfect crime. However, she said it was especially significant that Mogan and lookalike best friend Gonsalves may well have reminded him of the blonde cheerleader who rejected him in middle school. She went on, he took out the rage that he built up over the years towards his first love and all the subsequent women who rejected him with each bloody stab of the knife. Fucking hell, they need to get a book deal and all, don't they? Look, maybe he did it. Maybe the guy did it. He's pled guilty, and all I want to see is I just want to see it proven. Some people say, "What you can't? It's come from a horse's mouth. It's over." For me, it ain't. And that might upset you. And look, that's you do you, I'll do me. I just feel that it needs to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt publicly that he did it, because people can indeed plead guilty. And when you see this shit, when you see it and you understand that the vast majority of this is complete rubbish, and doesn't have there is nothing factual shown that supports any of it, and they're consistently going against the facts, the polar opposite of it, you understand that this is a media crucifixion. This is. Let me know what you think down below. Bryan Kohberger, the ghost. Who'd have thought it? Love you all. Mwah.